It's not easy to conclude such a wonderful day, especially when we've had so many remarks and so many marvelous innovations and presentations. I think that we're not going to comment all this, but I would like to remind you a few concepts or keywords that I feel very important. The first concept or key concept is e-health. E-health and e-health tools. E-health tools which are now being developed in many countries by many people. We have different apps which have been developed by medical academies, by private sectors, public sectors. I think that the input is training and governmental support. I think that what is important here is how can we use these results, these breakthroughs, and I would like to congratulate the Pierre Fabre Foundation because they've been there. They've been supporting all of us and all these projects. E-health means, whatever the definition we have, concerns the new technologies we have, ICTs, which are now going to be available for the well-being of our populations. And I think that this year we have been speaking of integration, and this is something which really reflects our concern, because if we have all these innovations, if we want them to be consistent, that means that they have to help us to develop well-being, and they also have to be embedded in a specific framework, a framework which is going to be prepared by our governments, but also by civil society and by universities. International entities also play a role when it comes to supporting these projects. For instance, promoting new tools, disseminating these tools, and also reinforcing governmental policies and strategies, and taking into account the needs and expectations of our people. Now, when we speak of policies, we're speaking of regulations. That means that we need a regulatory framework, an interoperability framework, because we want to make sure that all these initiatives dialogue one with another, interact one with another. So how can we know if the patient who has received the blood has also received a service in dermatology? So if we want to know this, that means that we have to go beyond technical innovation, beyond our policies. We have to make sure that we know how we can track all this, how we can exchange. We have been speaking a lot about training, and I think that training is essential. If we don't have human resources, and if we don't have training in the e-health sector, we won't be able to have sustainable results and innovations. And I really would like to say that this is the bedrock. And I would like to thank once more the Pierre Fabre Foundation, which has encouraged us to promote new tools and to make sure that they will become sustainable. Tools, we talked about tools. Tools are just another resource we have at hand. Tools which have to be tailored according to the needs. Now, what about these tools in an overall holistic approach? We know that we have these tools. It's not a problem due to technology. It has nothing to do with IC2. It's something which really has to do with the vision we have. How do we feel these tools have to be disseminated, and how can we make them more efficient? So we have to start by targeting, identifying the needs of the different countries, and then develop a strategy. We have to start by identifying these needs, and we can't do that on our own. We have to rely on organizations like WHO. We're not only speaking of implementing strategies, we're also trying to find resources so as to develop these strategies. We're not only saying, here we have a strategy and that's it. No, if you want to implement a strategy, you have to define it, but you have to define it in a specific context, in a timeline, and you have to make sure that you have the appropriate resources for that, because if not, it will fail. And next year, we're going to have new innovations. They're going to be different. So that means that we have to have resources for that, and just before we start developing all these innovations, let's make sure that we have the appropriate framework and we have all the resources we need. Local initiatives have to be encouraged, and we have to congratulate our winners, because I think that we're talking here of an award. This is just an encouragement, an incentive more. You have to continue paving the way for these new projects. We want you to feel that we trust you and that e-health is important for all of us, that we want to work with you, that we trust you, because all the projects which have been chosen with complete transparency. There has been a real consensus of all the members of the jury. And I wanted to say this because I believe that all the initiatives cannot be awarded. We cannot give an award to everybody, but I think that if we have our winners today here with us, is because we have felt that these projects were essential, because it comes from people who are courageous. We know what the difficulties are in some countries. Sometimes it's not easy even to trigger and fuel new ideas. So thanks again to the Pierre Fabre Foundation, because thanks to the Pierre Fabre Foundation, we're all here today. And thanks to the e-health Observatory, we have tools and the possibility of accessing tools and services. Martin Luther King said this a long time ago when he said, the most cruel injustice concerns health. And I think that the fact that we have a monitoring tool for health purposes and trying to have more access to these tools for our populations is really a wonderful prospect. And I would like to sum up with 3 words the day we've been going through today, and thank you very much again.